Coming into planting season, I want to talk about planting techniques a little bit, and this week I want to talk about using a no-till drill. That's becoming more and more popular. I've got to admit, when I purchased the Proving Grounds 20 plus years ago, it was so doggone rocky, I never used a disc. Now, I was raised on a farm. I have pulled a disc countless hours in my life. Sometimes I'd disc a field, my dad had me go disc it again, disc it the other way. And we didn't know any better. We knew a lot of dirt was flowing away, kind of laughed about it, stirred up rocks, and there was always a lot of weeds. Those three things right there are reasons not to ever pull a disc again. But the county here, the NRCS office, rented no-till drills. This old ranch was extremely rocky, and I didn't have much budget. It was cheaper to rent a drill, so I rented a drill and started drilling. And I admit my techniques were a little rough to start with. There'd be times when I would plant, coated seed, purple green seed, which is always a warning. Don't do that, folks. But I could see the rows of seed on top of the rocks, literally, and that's how I knew how far to space over. I was not in dirt. Now, fast forward, drills have gotten better, and what we know so much more, not using those treated seeds like that if you're really into wildlife or your own human health, and how to use the techniques. So let's talk about what a drill is. Now, back in the day, drills were made, but they were not no-till drills. People would plow fields, then get the old drill. They're pretty short to the ground. Usually no-tills are pretty tall to get the springs, everything under there. These were just made to place seed. It was kind of a newer planter, if you will. And I still see in Florida and, coastal plains, South Carolina, places like that, some food plot people using those old, they were basically John Deere drills, as a no-till because it's such sandy soil, it doesn't take much to get the seed in the soil. But a true no-till drill is designed to make a seed furrow, a seed trench, if you will, place the seed in that trench, and then cover it, usually with a packing wheel it's called, but put dirt on top of the seed and pack it down just slightly, all in one pass. And it has seed meters on it that you calibrate. It's real important to calibrate a drill before using it, so you're planting the appropriate number of seed per linear foot or per acre, however you want to calculate your planting rate. That's what a no-till drill is, and it's not a drill, it's a no-till drill. They're becoming common enough that people just say drill, and I understand that. I like to have economy of words also. But I love a no-till drill because when you disc and you're stirring up all that soil, several things are happening. One, when you're letting all that air in there and quote-unquote fluffing it up, moisture's leaving. For all you folks out there in the drought right now, don't you wish you had some of that moisture you lost when you're using that disc? And then you think you're fluffing or loosening up soil, which you are the top few inches, but right below that, and we've shared this many times, the tractor's heavy and vibrating, that's a perfect compactor, and you're pulling that heavy disc that's made out of steel. When it's going forward, some of that weight is transferring from the tractor to the disc, and gravity's pulling it down, actually compacting the soil below where that disc is churning the soil, making a hard pan. If you have a hard pan, if you get something like a half inch piece of rebar, some little skinny pipe, or maybe even an arrow that's not sharp, got a point on it, and you press it down in there, and all of a sudden it takes a whole lot more energy. That's a hard pan. That's really difficult for the roots to get through there. But an even easier way to know if you have a hard pan is pull a plant up, and if all the roots are going out this way instead of down, well, they're hitting that hard pan. The hard pan means the plant cannot get down to all the moisture. It's only getting the moisture in 3, 4, 5 inches of soil. Well, that's a huge difference between getting moisture out of 3 feet of soil, and the same with nutrients. Hard pans are a huge limiting factor in crop production and therefore fawn and antler growth. With a no-till drill, I'm not having near the compaction, and I'm having almost no, because the way I do it, I'm planting into another crop, right? There's zero or almost zero wind or water erosion. And as a farmer or a wildlife manager, soil's the most important thing we have. We think about all the cycles, the nutrient cycle, the air cycle, the water cycle. They all have a foundation in the soil. So if it's highly eroded, compacted, really low quality nutrients, full of herbicide and chemicals that are harmful to critters and us, that's a bad thing. And I can reduce or eliminate all that by using a no-till drill. Final thing, or one of the final things I really like about using a no-till drill with the minimal soil disturbance and not exposing that soil to excessive amount of air. It was never created to do that, just the amount of air that went down a dung beetle hole or a worm hole. And all these things, we can expand the populations of beneficial soil critters, microbes, earthworms, things like that are tilling. We don't have to till because those critters are tilling the soil 24/7 and letting just the right amount of air infiltrate the soil down deep. And I like to use dung beetles as example. They're almost extinct in many parts of America because of tillage and the chemicals we're putting on our fields, but they would burrow down about 14 inches, about the size of a pencil, take dung down there to feed their young. So they were making the soil tilled, letting air and water infiltrate the soil, and moving fertilizer in that deeper root zone. No machine can do it as good as how God created that whole system to work. So letting the critters till the soil, fertilize the soil, aerate the soil 24/7, we can't do any better than that. I mentioned calibration, and that's simply adjusting the opening in the drill or the seed meters to let the right amount of seed come out so you get the right stand density. Too little, of course, there won't be much food and weeds will grow up because something's gonna grow where there's sun reaching down. And way too many, well, there's too much competition, just like having way too many deer on a property or something like that. Too many pine trees and they're all runts out there. So we want to calibrate for the right amount. I strongly encourage everyone using a no-till drill to take time and go through the calibration process every year. Maybe you're planting the same thing, the same green cover blend, but do it every year. We do because maybe some of those seeds come from an area that were really dry or really wet, and they're bigger and smaller. You know, cereal rye, winter wheat, turnips, whatever. That seed can be bigger or smaller each year depending on the growing conditions. And that can make a huge difference because the meter in the drill is based on space taken up with seed going through. You're making that opening bigger or smaller to do a calibration. So if, for an easy example, soybeans are half again as big, you would plant way fewer beans per acre if you use the same setting as you did the previous year. Calibrating every year is well worth the time. And one final reason, calibrating can keep you from running out of seed. Oh my gosh, I didn't get enough, or gosh, I've spent all these hours out there and I got half the seed left. Calibrate and make sure you do it appropriately, accurately, and you end up with the appropriate amount of seed. Me personally, I always order 10% more seed than I think, just to allow for spillage or overlap or anything that might happen, because it's a bad feeling to be hustling, planting, maybe there's a rain coming, and then you're just a few acres short.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Also by Green Cover Food Plots, Winchester, PH Outdoors, Moultrie Mobile, Steel, Fleet Outdoor Apparel, Morel Targets, Fourth Arrow, Scorpion Venom Archery, Case IH Tractors, Burris Optics, G5 Broadheads, Prime Bows, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
You know, I don't watch much internet, to be honest, but people have been sending me some links about other people out there, you know, trash talking blends or Grant's an idiot or stuff like that. I laugh all that stuff off, folks. My life is way too short to waste my time. Fact is, all the native prairies, all the native plant communities except one or two on the planet were blends. Plants work together, and when good blends are designed appropriately and working together, unequivocally, that's a strong word, unequivocally, you get more tonnage per acre of quality forage. So that's one reason I plant blends. We know for a fact this research has been done and published, not Bubba out here on the side of a hill. When blends are working together, they're more drought tolerant. Different plants working together, and take some thought to put a good blend together, will always be more productive. The only limiting factor I know from using a blend is you can't use any herbicide. There's not a good herbicide out there. You know, you may have grasses and forbs. You may have cereal rye and clover together, a real simple blend. Well, if you have a herbicide, you're probably going to terminate one if you save the other. Not having a good herbicide selection is the only negative I've ever found in decades of planting blends. Even almost now 3 decades ago, when I started the company Biologic, we were planting multi-species together back then. This is nothing new for me, but some of the newer folks to the turf out here, the food plot field, maybe don't have enough experience or haven't done enough research to understand the value of planting blends. Some people say, well, gosh, if you plant a blend, you can't calibrate the drill. There's different seed sizes and all that. And that can seem confusing. But again, for decades, me and many cover crop farmers, many, have been planting blends. I simply pour it on the drill. I don't calibrate for each seed size or the biggest seed size or the smallest seed size. None of that works very well. I pour the whole blend right in the drill, make sure all the seed meter holes, the downspouts are covered at least with a couple inches, so some pressure on there, and go through the calibration process. And what I found is when you plant a good blend with different seed sizes, maybe as big as a pumpkin, as small as a turnip, there's different shapes, flat, round, different textures, smooth, coarse, rough. That just kind of makes a sediment, almost like creek gravel. And there's not water rushing through your drill, so it's not going to erode away. And I mean, I've planted and planted and planted and planted. I'm sure thousands upon thousands of acres by now. And it just goes through there, and I calibrate. Now, you want to check that your biggest seeds aren't being cracked. If a seed is cracked, it's probably killed the germination. And your smallest seeds, because of, again, different shapes, sizes, and textures, they don't all settle to the bottom. It just works out. I don't understand all the physics, but I do know, and I can learn from experience from years of doing this, it works out. A caution I'll share with planting blends, you've got, again, big seed, medium seed, and small size seed, so seed depth becomes a question. And back in the day, everyone was taught, boy, plant an inch or two deep. That was mainly people planting corn or soybeans. Those are bigger seeds, a lot of energy in there, and they can get, warm and moist, germinate, and have the energy, what's called onboard energy, to expand up and bust through that soil. And people that were planting clover, a lot of times they would frost seed or broadcast on top. When you're planting a blend that has large seeds, medium-sized seeds, and small-sized seeds, I like to plant about a ½ inch deep. And what I found, even if I get an unexpected rain, the soil crust over a little bit, when you plant a little bit shallower, those seeds have enough energy to bust through. Now, if you're planting really small, some of the varieties of clover that are very small, they may not have the energy to get up and bust through a hard packed clay a ½ inch deep, but those big seeds will, and they kind of fracture the soil, and that allows the small seed to follow up and get on through there. So again, planting a blend, they're all working together, and those really strong ones are busting through the soil. Those little small ones, but they're really important because they may be a legume going to provide a lot of really high quality protein, are going to follow those cracks and come on through. So I plant almost all my blends about a ½ inch deep, which means I keep a wide, flat bladed screwdriver in the toolbox on my tractor. Don't leave in your seat and sit down. You poke a hole in your tractor seat. And those of you who listen probably know I've done that from experience, right? So put it in that tractor toolbox or on your drill toolbox, and get off every now and then, and I put the narrow part of the blade in the seed furrow, get it down pretty deep, turn it flat ways, stick it in, lift up real slowly, and that will show you how deep you're planting on average, because the smaller size seed will go deeper in that seed trench. Big seed may look shallow. What you're looking for when I monitor seed depth is the smallest seed in the blend. And if it's brown and your soil is brown to black, it can be hard to see. So I stick that screwdriver in deeper than the seed trench, lift it up very slowly. I'm just like parting the soil. And that allows me to find that seed, and I want my smallest seed, which again falls deeper in the seed trench, about a ½ inch deep. We talked about depth. A lot of people don't talk about covering the seed. Now, if it rains the next day, whether it's covered or not, it's probably not important. Seed sitting there all week long, you're back at work, maybe you're planting out of state or something, exposed to the sunshine, you're probably going to lose some seed. They're going to dry out or desiccate and die. That's where a good drill has those packing wheels on the back made to smush a little soil, just a light coating of soil over the top of those seeds. Or if you're planting like we do, the release process, and you're drilling through, called plant to green, drilling through a standing crop and then crimping that down, even if you don't get great seed coverage with dirt all that vegetation on top really keeps them from desiccating, and the odds are you'll still get a good stand. Using a no-till drill is still new to a lot of folks out there, or a lot of folks that are getting drills, quite frankly, weren't raised on a farm. You know, we've had this mass exodus from our farms to the cities, so let me give you some real simple tips. When you're drilling, and you got any kind of rough soil like we have here at the Proving Grounds, we drive about 1.5 miles an hour. I have found slower is better. If you get that drill bouncing or going through rough land, you're not going to get good seed to soil contact, and you're more likely to break something. Most food plots aren't that perfect farm field that's been leveled in Iowa with deep soil. We're planting rough secondary land usually. Slow the tractor down. Don't turn tight corners with that drill behind you, a tongue mount or a 3-point hitch mount, because that drill blade has a lot of strength this way, almost like deer legs. But sideways, you can break a deer leg really easy, and that metal is really narrow sideways. It may be 14 inches tall this way of steel, but an 1/8 inch thick. And if you leave that drill down when you're turning a pretty tight corner, there's tremendous pressure sideways, because the drill, just like your front tire tracks on your car and the back tire tracks, don't follow the exact same path. If you're turning snow, you can see that. So the tractor's turning, the drill's cutting that inside corner just because it's behind there, and you can snap those coulters off sideways on any model of drill. The other thing is, you're driving up, don't just be rolling forward and drop that drill down. That's a heavy shock on that rascal. You know, we turn around, come to a complete stop, set the drill down easily, and then take off. Don't just be dropping on the fly. When you're dropping, you're pushing a bunch of seed out in one spot, you're not getting a good seed distribution. That's just hard on your equipment. So drills go through an amazing amount. I hear about rocks all the time. Well, we can't drill, we got rocks. It's very unlikely there's more rocks on your farm than my farm here in Stone County, Missouri. Take the hint. We got rocks. We got rocks the size of a pickup, but maybe on a little bit is showing at the ground level. If you're going the right speed, 1.5 miles, maybe 2 miles an hour if you got pretty good dirt, each on a good quality drill, of course we use a pH drill, each drill coulter is spring mounted. So you've got a rock the size of a bowling ball right in the middle of an 8-foot drill. These are going normal. This coulter is just going to ride over it and come back down and keep on going. If you're going too fast, it's going to smash into it. Over time, something's going to give. It's not the drill maker's fault. You weren't not being a good operator. Go slow enough that that drill can come along. When it hits a log, rock, whatever, it's going to roll up, roll over, and the spring pressure is just enough to let it lift up and put it right back in the soil. Drills are great tools, and they're literally sweeping across the whitetails range for use in food plots. It's amazing how many questions we get about using a no-till drill. And that makes me happy, not spending all my hours away from my family answering questions, but that people are being better stewards of the resource. The better we take care of the soil, the bigger deer you can produce on your land. Remember, we're down here in the Ozark Mountains growing deer that if you went to Iowa, you'd probably be happy to bring home. You know, taking care of the soil and being a good steward of the resource is a great way to have a better relationship with creation and the Creator. But even more important than big antlers or better food plots, I want each of you literally to take time daily to be quiet and purposely seek the Creator, because He's always looking for you, and apply His will to your life. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.